You were still reaching out to voters until 7:30 p.m. on election day. And look what you did. Look what you did.
Oh, thank you everybody for being here today. Wow, is all I can say. What an amazing honor I've been given. If I'm being honest, on election day, I thought to myself, wow, my sister's finally going to need my advice. She's losing. Not something she's experienced much in her political life, and something I consider myself somewhat of an expert in. But as we all know, just like the Super Bowl 28-3 deficit at halftime, you never bet against Tom Brady in football, and you never bet against Shemia Fagan ever. She will fight and she will win for Oregon. So without further delay, it's my honor to introduce my little sister and Oregon's next Secretary of State, Shemia Fagan.
Thank you. I should have prepared maybe 10 minutes to gather myself after that. Thank you, Jim. It's an honor to have been able to do this campaign and have you be so involved. Good morning, everyone. On Friday, I received a phone call from my friend and colleague, Senator Mark Hass, and a text from my friend, board member Jamie McLeod Skinner, congratulating me. I want to thank both of them, first off, for running a hard-fought campaign focused on the issues. And I will also not paper over the fact that this was a razor-thin victory, and that I will be working hard over the next months to earn the votes of all of their supporters who voted for them in this race. And speaking of close finishes, I have to thank my supporters, all of you, each and every one of you, literally each and every one of you who voted, volunteered, donated, sent me words of encouragement, put up lawn signs, and put your hearts into this campaign. It is with indescribable gratitude that I accept the Democratic nomination to be Oregon's next Secretary of State. In normal times, I would say that in a big room, and all of your cheers and clapping would kind of give me an opportunity to hide the powerful emotions that I'm feeling right now as I kind of relive my unlikely Oregon journey that has brought me to this moment. In fact, a few weeks ago, I got an email from a woman named Jennifer. She told me that her 9-year-old daughter loved when my campaign commercials came on TV and would get excited every time they came on. And let's be honest, that was very often. And it struck me because her daughter is 9. And I was a 9-year-old girl living in a house full of boys in Dufur, Oregon, when Barbara Roberts made history and became the first woman governor elected in Oregon. And so to 29 years later, be able to have me inspiring other 9-year-old girls while being supported by Governor Roberts is uniquely special. And so I want to thank Governor Roberts for inspiring me as a 9-year-old girl in Dufur, and for 29 years later, trusting me to be Oregon's next Secretary of State. I also want to thank my big brother, Jimmy, who I did not even know was going to be introducing me today until about an hour ago. So good thing I had written him into my speech. Jimmy has been my biggest and Eastern Oregon super fan. And many of you have heard me tell the story of my big brother driving me to East Portland from the Dalles to visit our mom who was homeless and living under a porch. Jimmy drove that day. If we could have only known that 23 years later, he'd be driving that same route to deliver lawn signs in my race for Oregon Secretary of State. So thanks, Jim, for driving that route during the good times and the tough times. And that brings me to the 72 hours that broke the political prediction models here in Oregon because of the unprecedented effort by my team and by the grassroots organizations and volunteers whose members and staff and volunteers powered this campaign. Planned Parenthood, there's so many to mention, Planned Parenthood, SEIU, the Oregon Education Association, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, NARAL, the Oregon League of Conservation Voters, Washington Ignite, the Carpenters, and so many more. You put in over 1,000 shifts. You made over 500,000 phone calls. You sent over 200,000 text messages to make sure that democracy still worked in Oregon, even in the midst of a global health crisis. You were still reaching out to voters until 7:30 p.m. on election day. And look what you did. Look what you did. You people powered this campaign and you embodied our core value that every vote, literally every vote counts. We also witnessed in real time how critical the role of Secretary of State is. Throughout this campaign, when asked what is the role of the Secretary of State and why is it important, we didn't just respond with the day-to-day mechanics of the job. We also spoke to the sense of urgency that so many Oregonians feel about meeting our basic needs. The urgency that I saw in my dad, who raised 3 kids by himself, by sacrifice, and with an amazing community in Dufur and the Dalles. The urgency I saw in my mom, who battled with and overcame a drug addiction and homelessness and spent her last years living in a house that she owned in Umatilla. Urgency. For some, it maybe was a little bit too simple, but for so many more, it rang true. And as we continue to face the challenges of this global pandemic, Oregon's vote by mail system is a beacon of hope for our democracy. In the face of national attacks on vote by mail, Oregonians cast over 1.3 million ballots statewide. Between automatic voter registration, prepaid postage, our postal workers, our countless county elections officials, volunteers, and you, the voters, we showed that nothing stops democracy in Oregon. And we can't let up on the fight to elect a pro-democracy Secretary of State. A Secretary of State who believes that hardworking Oregonians are the most important voices in our democracy, not big corporations. A Secretary of State who believes that you have to accept the outcome of elections, even if you don't like them, and that politicians shouldn't abandon their jobs and leave Oregonians to pick up the tab. A Secretary of State who believes that now more than ever, our scarce resources in Oregon need to make a difference in the lives of the people who need them most. And a Secretary of State who will stand up to partisan attacks on vote by mail and make sure your voice is heard, even when and especially when our voices disagree. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When every eligible voter can vote, when every ballot is accurately counted, when our democracy works, progress is always within reach. That's why I'm running for Secretary of State, and I'm asking you to stand with me, with us, as we fight for the Oregon that we all love so dearly. Thank you.